Hi guys, welcome back to MBL Let's Discuss. Today I have an amazing person with me, and he's an old friend of mine, and someone that I can have a good debate and a good discussion with. And it's an honor to have you with me today, Slydon. Please introduce yourself and tell my audience who you are and what you do.
Hi, audience. So my name is Slydon Lungu, and I am a tech entrepreneur. I have a company that focuses on building innovative tech, looking around quantum mechanics, and yeah, so we got some exciting stuff to do there, and that's basically what I do. Yeah.
It's an honor to have you with me, Slydon, because you are one of the people who inspires younger people and actually do a lot of work in the background, just to speak out and, let out the younger generation's voice to protect the future generation as well. So this is something that's really interesting about you. And I know that you've touched bases with something that you've just started for the younger generation. So tell me about that.
Yes. So obviously, following the ongoing protests and obviously the injustices following Black Lives Matter, obviously being African myself, we just thought we can create something practical here as opposed to just shouting into the void, because a lot of the internet is just, you're shouting into the void, and it's what you call, what do they call it? A sort of room where you're sort of speaking to the people who already know what you're talking about. So we created something called the Minority Fund. And the idea for the Minority Fund is actually very interesting for young people. It's the idea that we get a young person struggling from a difficult background. So if they come from, say, a Muslim background, a Jewish background, it's really trying to get people from a wide variety of backgrounds. And then what we would do is we try and get them placements into companies in their community. And so that's just a way for us to bridge the divide in a way between communities that don't see each other, even though in the UK we live with a lot of communities, we hardly engage with each other as much. So I think that's also an important way that we can solve issues such as Black Lives Matter, and we can sort of get through that divide. So we think it's very exciting. It's been obviously very difficult to launch and get everyone going because of COVID, but obviously so look out for next year. And Martin should share more details about that with you.
Yes, it's very refreshing actually to hear that people are doing something to make their voices heard, because it's at the moment, and let's face it, through 2020 a lot happened in 1 year, and
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter was one of the biggest topics, and it was so inspiring to see the whole world stand together. For once everyone was like, we agree with this topic, and unfortunately there was the people who rejected the whole idea, and I have a feeling it was mainly because they didn't understand actually what the whole situation was about, or they had their own misinterpretation, let's say. Now, to me, it's, when we make a protest regards to anything,
Yeah.
we need to actually find out the basic reasons of why we are actually making that sound and understand it. And that's something that you talked a lot about on your social media. So would you like to touch bases with that?
Yes, touch bases with it. So I think the fundamental thing that people sort of didn't understand about it was just a slogan, it was a tagline. And you have to remember that the organization didn't start in 2020. It started in Ferguson in 2013 when Barack was still president. So it had nothing really to do with politics. It's just, it's an example of, say, Save the Children, right? Save the Children is a campaign that says Save the Children. Now, when we say Save the Children, we don't mean every child. So, that campaign, Save the Children, specifically aimed at, for example, developing countries, right? So if they never had a Save the Children campaign in the West. So that's what Black Lives Matter was. It was, is a slogan that obviously became popular. And so they stuck with it. And they said, Black Lives Matter. It made people aware. It made people sort of group everything, whether it was police injustices or housing, or lack of housing, or lack of education. And so because it had been going since 2013, then when it sort of came up, it sort of mixed in with the whole of politics. And that's why it became so complicated, I think, for people.
Yeah, definitely. And I assume that one of the main factors, as you've touched it as well, that you started the community that you've started is just to create more equal opportunities, which is just to show that we're all the same, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
There is no difference where it shouldn't really matter what color of your skin is, what your accent is, or where your mother language is. It's all about having the same opportunity as everybody else. And this is really inspiring. So thank you so much for talking about it. And I will leave the link in the bio. And just drop me a comment if you have more information. I'll give you more details about how to get hold of Slydon as well. Regards to business, let's go back to business because you're a very business orientated person, and this is where our main discussions and debates go. So uh, you've actually started up your own business, and that's very inspiring because you've worked through the whole period of COVID as well. And this
Yeah.
is something that a lot of people found difficult to do. While people were struggling, you were finding the positive side of the situation. So tell us a little bit about this because it's not everybody that can do it. And for the people who's done it, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, so I think we're sort of lucky in a sense that because we are a tech company, obviously we don't need to be as customer faces as much, well, for now anyway. So what we did manage to do remote working, working from home, and it was a lot of just doing that as opposed. But you still do lose something in terms of networking with people, actually meeting up people and meeting up potential clients. And again, that comes with experience. So I've been in business since 2018. I started my business in 2018, and yeah, since then, I think when you're an entrepreneur, you do realize COVID is part of the risk that you're supposed to be prepared for, regardless of whether it comes now or later. And I think a lot of people forget this, and so it's always important to remember that you always face those barriers. But I think it's easy to say that if you haven't come across barriers that stopped you. So I was lucky and fortunate that within my time, within my 2 years of doing business, I did come over some barriers, and so I learned from that. So I didn't let it put me down. I just continued, and so when COVID did come around, I think I wasn't like everyone else, who wasn't prepared and say, well, something wrong is going to go here. We just sort of continued, and we just adjusted. And I think obviously it's easy for me to say we adjusted. And what does that mean? That would require another hour-long conversation. So that's generally how we, managed to get through COVID, and we're still doing it. So
I like the fact that you continuously use the word we, keeping
I
the
see.
teamwork going, keeping the whole team
Yes.
inspired. Tell us a little bit about your team and how you guys started up.
Yes, no, that's very important. Yeah, I mean, this is the thing when you say we, even though I am doing, even though I did start the business myself, there's always people involved, whether it's the people encouraging you, the people discouraging you, so you can take energy from both, and the people that sort of help me out. And so, I don't know if if I should mention it, but I do have a great person who's helping me from school, who's helping me with product design. I have a person who's worked for Google, so she's quite experienced, and yeah, so she's managed to come in and help me out. So she's going to become our COO, and yeah, got another person who worked for a cyber tech company. So I did a good thing in terms of getting talent around me, but the way I got that talent is by networking and going out and getting to know these people personally. So you can't really, you can't. These are the kind of roles that you require in sort of C-level, high-level kinds of business engagement. It's not something you can hire, especially when you're a startup. These are the people that you meet, you make conversations with, and you get that vibe from them. And so that's something, again, that young people should take into account when you're trying to build something. Really go out there and get to know people. Yeah, so but it's very important in terms of how you start your day.
Because of what I do and the work I actually do, it's mainly to try to find the beauty and happiness and everything that I do.
Yeah,
Try to do the impact of changing the world into a better place, where a place to deserve to live in.
yeah,
Now, with that, I truly believe that for us to have a healthy mind, we need a healthy body, and that's so I agree with you. Like, mindfulness and self care, it's something really, really important.
There's a great motivational speech that you find by US general. It's on YouTube. I think everyone should
Yes,
see this.
the one
Yes,
that says start your day by making your bed.
exactly.
Yes, it's one of my favorite speeches, honestly.
You're right.
I
It's incredible.
completely agree.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And just that, I think it's very important, especially if you're a young person listening to this, it's very important that you start off your day by completing something. It doesn't, it doesn't have, yeah, it can be making your bed, which is incredible, but as long as you complete something, it does something to the way you're going to operate throughout the day. It gets you ready. It's how you unlock the day. And I think when people don't do it, they just think, oh, it's gimmicky. But once you start doing it daily, you realize it affects everything. So it affects when you start to work and everything else. And if you're like us and you're running your own business, if essentially I'm my own boss, so I don't have anyone to kick me up my backside. I have to do that myself, right? So that's how I do it. No one's ever going to come to me and say, work harder. I have to do that myself.
My excuse, and I always tell my students this, and something that I absolutely love is, why are you willing to wake up for someone else's time, but
Exactly.
not yours?
Yeah, that's because they don't know the value of themselves. Our culture doesn't ingratiate into young people that they have value until they reach a certain age or until they get degrees, and it's so wrong. I believe it's all wrong. And it's to do without without educational system, but I don't want to go into that. The idea that we're not ready to do something until we have a qualification is absolutely wrong. Now, of course, it's dangerous when you say that, because what you don't want is for someone to just say, "Well, I don't want to do something. I don't want to get a qualification. I can do it by myself." No, what we're saying is, it's about the effort that you put in, and it's about recognizing who you are yourself. So if you know in your heart of hearts you want to become a musician, you want to do something, and you put 100% in it, and you don't want to go into education, that is perfectly fine. But if you do that stuff halfway through, if you just do the bare minimum effort and then you try to expect to become successful, then you're not going to become successful unless you do it crazy. And so that's the difference between, if you're really passionate about something and if you're just blasé about something and expect to do something. We just complicate things. It's how we are as human beings. What can we do?
That's not how we are. I don't want to take responsibility for something that we make ourselves to be. I like communication, and thank you so much for communicating with me today. Um, I took a lot of your time, so
No,
I
no, it's
absolutely
anytime.
love this discussion, and I can go on for hours more. But I would really love to have you when your project actually goes live, and we can talk more about it then as well. But in the meantime, Slydon, thank you so much for being on my
Thank you.
program, and I really appreciate all the input, and you are such an inspiration for changing the world in future.
Very high. Um, I'll try and live up to it, but yeah, I think it's just a case of live each day as it comes, and don't think too highly. Just micro changes and micro
At the
advancements.
time.
But yeah, enjoy, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
See you later.
See ya.